The white, snow-covered slopes of Kelvin's Cairn loom large behind this quiet lakeside town. Caer Conig started as a camp for a group of mountaineers from the northern Moonsea region. As the camp grew, a wooden palisade was added to discourage raiders. Later came the stone castle of Caer Conig. Alas, neither the palisade nor the castle fared well. Both fell to orcs before finally falling into complete ruin. Caer Conig, as it is known today, consists of terraced rows of houses that recede from the shore of the lake, like tiers of an amphitheatre. The harbour is frozen, its docks skewed and broken by the shifting ice. Buried under the snow on the slopes above the last row of houses are the ruins of the Caer, and gave the town its name. A reminder to the people of Caer Conig that nothing lasts in this corner of the world. Travel to and from this remote town is expedited by the ferry that ran out of East Haven. But with the ferry shut down, Caer Conig is completely cut off by mountains, lakes and snow. Forced to live on what they can haul out of the iced over lake, the people of Caer Conig are bitter and angry. They believe that the rest of the 10 towns has abandoned them. The only thing that keeps the townsfolk from leaving is the beer at the local tavern, which never seems to run out. As if things weren't bad enough, the town has suffered several mysterious break-ins recently, with no evidence of the intruders except dwarven boot tracks in the snow leading north. Since there's no known settlement in that direction, the townsfolk assume that Auriel's everlasting winter has taken its toll on the dwarves of Kelvin's Cairn, forcing them to come down from the mountain in search of food or beer. In truth, the town is beset by invisible Duergar searching for Shardlin. The town speaker, a heavy drinking dragonborn named Trovus, patrols at night to keep an eye out for trouble. In his inebriated state, however, Trovus is prone to wandering out onto the icy lake or passing out on the ramshackle docks, and he almost never remembers his nightly patrols once his head clears. Welcome back, I am the Clay Golem, and in this video we're looking at part of our series to help new Dungeon Masters, but not just new Dungeon Masters, with a few tips and tricks. Because for every Dungeon Master, you will get to a point where you go, do you know what? I want to create my own adventures, I want to create my own whole world. And there's tons of videos out there telling you what you should do, what you shouldn't do, how to plan out your entire continent, etc. And that's all very well. But in this video, I want to talk more detail, because I believe what works well is start small and grow outwards to meet the needs of your players and your emerging campaign, your natural adventure hooks, etc. So that piece that I read out at the beginning there is for this place, Caer Conig, from Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. And that's a nice little introductory for the DM about the town. But I think it's got serious problems. For me, the way that I play and the way that my players play, which is really important. There's lots of unanswered questions. And that's what I want to do in this video, is look at what kind of questions may your players ask, or even if they don't ask, the questions you can answer as a DM that bring your world to life. Now, we are looking at Rime of the Frost Maiden right at this very moment. There it is, right in front of you. We're looking at that in a moment, which is obviously a published adventure. And while I don't want to criticise this as a module, because it's really good, but the details are all missing. And it's fair to say, well, it's the DM's job to fill in those details. But have you thought about what those details are? This is going to be one of those videos, absolutely read the comments, because there will be lots of opinions on this, and there will be people who think I'm absolutely full of nonsense. And that's fine. If it works for you and your group, keep doing what you're doing, but maybe look at there's ways that you could improve and add some depth and add some flavour. So let's start off by asking ourselves some questions about that introduction. So it talked about, and I got it right here in front of me because I can't remember exactly what I said when I recorded that, of course. So it says about, the reason why the town was founded, essentially as an expedition place for going up the Kelvin's Cairn. And stuff like that. That's all good. It talks about the fact that you used to get the ferry into and out of the town from East Haven. That was its main way of getting in and out here. But the ferry doesn't run anymore. Straight away, why is that a problem? And if you're not immediately jumping to some answers, this video is going to help you. It then talks about it's been completely cut off by mountains, lakes and snow, mostly because of the ferry. Forced to live on what they can haul out of the iced over lake. Fantastic. So my question is, for you, how the heck does this town survive? Think about it. What does any town, whether it's in D&D or whether it is, in the real world, any kind of genre, what does a town need to survive? And there's some basic things. They need food. They need warmth, they need tools, they need materials. These questions are hardly ever mentioned in published adventures. So when you are building your own adventures, this becomes really important for you to do that. If you start off by drawing your massive great big continent and all of your major political regions and everything else, there's nothing wrong with that. But you put so much time into doing that is you miss the detail. And guess what? Your players play in the detail. They are on that battle map. They are in that town. They are in those fields. They're in that forest. They are not looking at the overall whole of the continent. They don't care. If you're going to get them to travel later on and they're going to cross borders, or the main crux of the adventure is to do with political power struggles or armies or things like that, yes, scope that stuff out. But the day-to-day, nitty-gritty, session by session, you need to be more micro rather than that big picture stuff. So what do I mean? Well, we're going to use Caer Connaught as an example because, one, I'm running Rime of the Frost Maiden at the moment, and a number of questions cropped up to me while I was doing this, and I, on my feet, are filling in details. And there's lots of people watching this right now who go, I don't need to do what you're about to suggest because I can do this on my feet. I can just pull this out of my backside. Brilliant, great. That comes with experience. Remember, new DMs haven't got that. They haven't got that thing called experience. So for you, good habits right from the beginning will improve your games no end. So what we get from the adventure is in this place, Caer Connaught, is it tells us that we have over on the right here that we have Northern Lights, and it tells us about a couple of people who work in this pub, and we've got the hook, line and sinker in this inn as well, and we get the person who runs that, and it talks about Frozen Far Expeditions, which is the mountaineering outdoorsy type of place. We've got the person who runs that. It does mark on their map the speaker's house, but doesn't give us any more information about that, although it does pop the speaker. I've popped him down here somewhere. And it mentions about the ruined Caer, but very little else. It only tells you what you need to know to get on the adventure and get out of town. There's very little to give you an idea of how this town feels. So my questions are, brilliant. My players recently were in the Northern Light. They walk into the Northern Light. I don't have a map for it. I do it from here. That's absolutely fine. They walk into the Northern Light. Question 1. How is this place being kept warm? This is Icewind Dale. You will freeze to death indoors if you don't have a source of heating. The obvious thing is to say that, well, there's a big warming, welcoming, open fire. Maybe there's a cauldron over it with a, a forever pottage or something like that cooking over it, a constant stew, something like that. Fantastic, right? Where's that fuel coming from? This is my major problem with Icewind Dale. What are they burning to heat their homes? Because the normal answer would be firewood. Let me just switch scene for you, and we'll jump to the Icewind Dale map, and we can have a look at where this place is. It's here, Caer Connaught. on the shores of this lake. Okay, there's Kelvin's Cairn, which is a big mountain. Where the frick are the trees? All the way over here. All the way over here. So when it talks about the fact that this town is pretty much cut off, and by the way, East Haven is down here, so they talk about the ferry that used to come in and out of there, and there's a bit of a road there, you know, that's where trade is going to come in. There is no forest around here at all. Therefore, there is no woodcutter going out and cutting enough firewood to keep people alive through the rime of the Frost Maiden. They're going to all die. So that's the kind of thing I mean. And one of your players will go, there's a log fire. Where are they getting the wood? I've not seen any trees. And the DM suddenly got to come up with an answer. And if the DM can't come up with an answer on the fly, which a lot of people can't, and that's fine, it starts to break the immersion. It starts to, the scenes start to come apart. And that's a bit pants, isn't it? Now, it depends on your players. A lot of players won't even ask those kind of questions. They don't care. They're just saying, where's the money? Where's the beer? Where's the adventure? Who's looking around? Who suspiciously looks like they've got a quest hook, you know, with a question mark over their head or an exclamation mark they can go up and talk to get their next quest. And that's fine. Absolutely fine. If you're running a campaign, you need to bring it to life. You need these kind of details. So that's one question. Second question is, how are these people feeding themselves? Well, at the moment, from what it said in the description, is basically what can they haul out the lake? Okay, so their diet is fish. That's it. That's all they've got. They've got nothing else. They've got no honey. They've got no grains. They've got no bread. They've got no meat. They've got nothing but fish. Now, fish is pretty darn good, but you can't live on it forever. Your whole families can't live just on fish. You do need it supplementing with various vegetables, salads, whatever it may be, where, you know, your vitamin C's, all of those things that your people need. Now, again, easy mistake to make is you walk into the tavern and you go, oh yeah, I'd like to buy some dinner, and you go, oh yeah, there's beef stew. Where the heck did that beef come from? Can you see what I mean? The details matter, because what you can do in that situation is they walk in and go, oh, what's on the menu? You can have 5 different items on the menu, which are all variations of knucklehead trout. We've got braised knucklehead trout, we've got knucklehead stew, we've got, you know, it's... And suddenly they're going, bloody hell, it's fish or nothing, isn't it? No wonder these people are miserable. Brings that town to life. Explains some of the people. People are not going to be walking around eating a fresh apple, leaning against a post outside, enjoying the sunshine. They're not. There's no apples, there's no sunshine, and they're going to freeze to death if they're just standing around out there doing nothing. So again, flavour becomes really important. There's other things. So we've talked about fuel, we've talked about the fact that there's some issues with food, but where's that fishing tackle coming from for the fishing? Who's making that? Where is the metals coming from? Who's repairing that equipment? What about their winter clothing? Where the heck does that come from? These are the questions that make your places interesting. And it could be a goblin camp. It could be a bandit camp. It could be a major city. It could be a far-flung outpost or a little farming community. But answer those questions because it brings it all to life. The best part about answering those questions is it builds adventures, side quests and plot hooks for you without you even thinking about it. They become really, really obvious. So let's look at an example of that. So if I'm going to jump to my journal, if I can actually click on the right thing, I'm going to go to Caer Konig. I will zoom this in a bit to make it slightly easier for you guys to be able to see on screen because the writing's a little bit small, so I won't move my window. I literally just copied the background information that is from the module for this, so that's what it tells us already. Now, in the previous video, we talked about NPCs and giving them a bit more information. So I've got my key NPCs in here, and I've got a bit about this individual. And before we talked about, right, what's their name, what's their species, any particular speech patterns and mannerisms, what do they do, what are their hobbies and interests, a bit of physical description, and before I slightly reworded it for this purposes, but not just how do they engage with the adventure, because if you're doing an open world, they may not be involved in this adventure. They might be involved in the adventure, you know, when the party hit level 3 and 7 and 12. So there might be multiple. So what hooks and plots is this person engaged in? It might be they just have a piece of information. It might be that they are a quest giver. It might be that they know somebody, you know, all sorts of different things. So what are the plot hooks and known information? And we can just do this with all of these individuals, you know, and they're all going to be different, but we can fill this in. And yes, I haven't filled this in because that's not the focus of this particular video, but we can just walk through there, and my table's not quite right for that one. We can just walk through there and fill in that information, and that's going to make life much, much easier when we are running that. It also means we can very quickly come to and find out individuals, and then if we want to very quickly, while we're having that conversation, we can share that image with the players, you know, oh, this is who you're talking to, etc. So it's really nice to kind of be able to do that. Now, I'm in Foundry, obviously, because this channel is mostly about Foundry, but it's not. This video is not about Foundry. This is videos about your adventures. You don't obviously need to do this in Foundry. You might have a notebook where you're putting this stuff in. You might have a document. You might use something like Obsidian or World Anvil or something like that. It doesn't matter what the tool is you use, it's how you use it that's important, and whether you're collecting the information that is important to you for your adventure. So I've got all of these items in here. Now the really good thing about Foundry, and not Foundry video, but I'm going to say it anyway, is the fact that we can pop these things out, because we do have that detach window function that I can then slide that into my other window off screen. And that is an absolute, that's so good. So good. I'm just going to close that because I don't need it popped out. It makes it much, much easier for the DM to reference the adventure in the other window. But you might have it, literally have it written out. So for these towns, and let's say we are starting a brand new adventure and we have created this town for that. These are the kind of questions, and again, I'll make sure we're zoomed in for this. These are the questions that I want answered about any outpost, village, city, etc. So that we can flesh it out, avoid awkward questions, but also generate automatic plot hooks for us. So first resource, drinking water. Where is this place getting its drinking water? Wells will freeze solid. The lake has frozen solid. The streams have frozen solid. These people will die without fresh water. So you can easily solve this one. You go, well, okay, there is somebody whose job it is to cut blocks of ice and thaw it out to make sure there's drinking water available. Fantastic. You now have a new NPC. Now, you don't need to create them as an NPC. You don't even need to give them a name. But what you can do is add to your description when they wander down to the docks. You know, you can see standing out on the ice, you know, a man with 2 small children. He's desperately cutting with with an ice saw, cutting blocks of ice and loading them into a sled nearby. The players might go, well, what's he collecting ice for? Well, I mean, what does he need to keep cold? You just put it outside, right? But no, he's collecting fresh ice that can then be melted to create drinking water. Somebody now has a job they didn't have before. So that's interesting. Adds flavour, telling your players that there is a problem and how that is being solved by the town. It just brings the place to life. Really simple. Primary foods. So what is the most common type of food here? If they're a nomadic tribe, that might be reindeer, because that's what they follow them across the tundra. It might be they keep goats. It might be crops and grains, because that's what the town grows. Whatever it might be. What's their primary food? Now for here, it's knucklehead trout. They get it out of the lake, and it's mostly from ice fishing. I've just realised I've got a typo there. Okay. Drinking water, need that for cooking, for washing, for drinking, and everything else. Primary foods, just to give you an idea. If they walk into a pub and you're not expecting them to, and they say, "What's for dinner?" You can look at primary foods and you can just come up with something, rather than going, "Oh, okay, well they have chocolate souffles." It's like, where the hell are they getting that from? It just throws people. You get the idea, right? Primary alcohol. yes, your taverns may have a range of drinks, but this is not 21st century European pubs that have all of these different ales and stouts and wine. No, they really don't. That's not going to happen. So for each place is primarily going to be, well, we have ale, and yeah, we get the occasional shipment of wine in. Or, well, we have vineyards. We make our own wine, and we frown on people who drink anything other than our local wine, but we do have these extra things available. So you can just kind of put that in there. Now do notice, while I've got type there, this provider, where the heck is it coming from? Now, for primary alcohol, it does talk about one of the pubs having ale that is delivered delivered from the Battlehammer Dwarves, and it's Jarthra who actually brings that in. What about the other pub? The other inn apparently doesn't get any, doesn't have ale, because the only ale available, and while there's quite a lot of it available, is only available through one inn, which is a bit strange. But there's a question: why? And how is that dwarf managing to get that ale through? And if the dwarf's bringing ale, what the heck else is the dwarf bringing or should be bringing? And how are they avoiding the dangers? Starts to open up these other questions. Arable farming, none. It's too cold to grow crops. There is no grains. There's no wheat. There's no vegetables being grown. Absolutely zero from here. So it's too cold to grow crops. Livestock farming. Again, there is no big livestock farming here at all. You absolutely can argue that there will be, small holdings with a few private animals. And in fact, part of the adventure hook in this one is stuff going missing, including a couple of goats. So we know there are goats here, and goats make sense. They're really hardy animals. You can bring them indoors, keep them in a shed, etc. And they will eat almost anything. So you're not looking for, oh yeah, we've all got horses. Like, what are you feeding them on? Oats. Where the heck are you getting the oats from? Goats, much easier. Because they will eat almost anything. And of course the goats provide milk and cheese. Fantastic. So we've got fish, milk and cheese now. Great. What about hunting and fishing? So what, for those kind of industries, are we growing stuff? Are we raising cattle? Are we hunting and fishing? So ice fishing, absolutely, on the lake. That's where we're getting a majority of our food from, is from those fish. But just because there are no forests here, so you're not going after your forest animals and things like that, there are absolutely creatures that still survive out here on the frozen plains. Reindeer, Arctic hare, elk, etc. Things like that. So hunting is plausible, but it's bloody dangerous because the weather is so awful, and there is some really nasty things out there as well, like wandering yetis and stuff like that. So while there is hunting, that is not going to be primarily the food source here. It's very, very dangerous. What about fuel for heating and cooking, which is how I started, like where does that wood come from? Now I filled in with clues that I've got from the module, and I've got a lot of spaces. There's no mention about heating and cooking fuel. So are they burning wood? Are they burning charcoal? What are they doing? So that is a question we can answer for ourselves. And if that is being imported from somewhere else, there is a potential hook for an adventure. What happens when that stops? Well, everybody freezes to death. So this is suddenly critical that the players help out and resolve that problem. Fuel for lighting. Lamps and things are all powered by whale oil. Brilliant. Well, there's no whales here. Where's that coming from? So that has to be traded in. But we're cut off. So perhaps supplies are really low of whale oil, or is there another route? We've got these other questions. How does this town connect with all these resources? It needs these resources. Where the heck does they come from? So you can carry on all the way through here and just see all of the different things where we've got big bloody holes in it. Where do they put their waste? And I'm not just talking about their toilet waste, but, any other junk and stuff like that. Is there a midden somewhere? Fine, just comment on it. Well, this end of town seems to stink quite badly. As you round a corner, you realise this is where the middens are. You hurry on past on your way to the temple. That's all it needs to be. Little comment there, and they're going, oh yeah, this end of town smells. It's where all the shit is kept. Really easy to do if you think about it. Okay, so you can look at the rest of those with those big gaps, because they are big gaps, and then we can start to fill them in. So if you are starting from scratch and you are designing your own gaming world, you've probably got your initial adventure already in mind. You might have a grand campaign and story arc in mind, but you need a starting adventure which is going to start in one place. It might be Caer Konig, could be anything you've made up, whatever it is that you're doing. You need these details, and then you can build your adventures from here. So immediately looking at this, what adventure hooks can we come up with purely looking at resources? All right, well, drinking water, in this case, not a problem. But if the well is the only place, you've got the classic poisoned well or whatever it might be, magically frozen, etc. Primary foods. Right, knucklehead trout. What happens if something happens to knucklehead trout? Well, this place is absolutely stuffed. So it could be there's an issue with knucklehead trout. Maybe they're dying off. Maybe they're being overfished by a different town, and you've now got some political tension. You've got that. Alcohol. Nobody wants the alcohol to run out. When the ale runs dry, people get very, very cross. So is there a problem with the supply run? One of the things from the Curse of Strahd is the winery stopped sending its wine things, and players are asked to go and investigate. Like, why is the wine stopped? We need to find out what that's happened. Yeah, it's a little bit passé, it's a little bit simplistic, but it's how you do it that matters. Arable farming, crop blights, things like that. In fact, actually, we looked at that mini adventure that I wrote based off of the Heroes of Faerun from there, which was I've forgotten the name of the place, Humble Hill, that's the one. The Curse on Humble Hill, which is it's an arable farming community where the crops are being poisoned and the people are at risk of starvation and will have to leave. There we go. Brilliant. It's a resource challenge. That's what we need to solve. Livestock farming, again, maybe there's sheep rustlers, maybe goblins are coming down in the night and stealing sheep, whatever it might be. But there's an adventure hook, right? Easy peasy. It's all tied to resources. Because if goblins are turning up at night and are drawing funny faces in the snow, nobody's really going to care. You start nicking their food and their shelter and their heating, and now it's serious, and the players are going to get rewarded for doing something about it. Okay, hunting and fishing, again, depending what you're relying on, that fuel and heating, really, really important. Resources, metal goods. Who's making their tools and their weapons and repairing things, making hinges, making knives and things like that? Are they all being imported? Fine. Imported from where? You're building your campaign world. You now need to add a new node or a new place on your map within distance for trade to justify where those are coming from. Now you've got your receiver and you've got your place that is producing them and sending them. You've now got a supply route. How many adventures have players been on over the past, however many decades, that involve escorting the traders and making a delivery? How dangerous is that road? What would those caravans, those traders encounter along that road? Is it really safe? Is it really dangerous? If it's really safe, why is it really safe? Is it because it's patrolled? Well, who's paying for those people, those soldiers to patrol it? Is it just that the caravans are very heavily protected? What is going on? That starts to fill out your world just by answering these questions. How do the goods move? How are they kept safe? Adventurers might be hired to push back the wandering monsters further and further away from the main trade routes. That could be something they are paid to do. Don't just guard the caravan, but actually move into the forest, wipe out that goblin camp, track down those owlbears and remove them, whatever it might be, to make that route safer. Easy peasy from a adventure plot hook. Now these are not grand campaign adventures, these are side quest kind of things. But at first level, they should only really be doing side quests or they're going to die. Tools, same thing. So they might be bringing metal in and somebody in town is making tools. Brilliant. You've got an NPC. They are going to be the local blacksmith. Now you need to decide what can they make, what can't they make. Is it good quality? Is it poor quality? Can they make a suit of plate mail armor? Probably not if it's a small village or town. But they can make you a hoe and they can make you a plowshare. They can perhaps repair some of your equipment and do an okay job on it. Things like that. Leather goods, again, if you've got a hunter in town, are they actually turning those hides into leather? Because that's a particular process, isn't it? You need a tannery to do that. So where's the tannery? Tanneries stink. If there is a tannery in town, the players probably need to know that as they approach the town and go, you can smell the rancid, acidic odour of a tannery. They are going to know about that. So again, just answering this question, suddenly you're giving more detail about your town. You're bringing it to life. You are making it real. Clothing. What are people wearing? If they're all wandering around wearing silks, where the heck are they getting it from? If, in this case, because they don't have access to much of trade, I decided that clothing is mostly layered furs, animal skins, hides and things like that. That's a resource they have. That's also a really good resource for winter clothing. You only need to look at people who live in the Arctic Circle, whether that's in the Americas and Canada or other places around the world, is animal skins and hides. Keep the animals alive in those conditions, repurpose them. Makes sense. They're not going to be wearing desert silks and stuff in this terrain in Icewind Dale. What about pottery? Now, you don't have to worry about pottery, but if you say that they go into the pub and somebody drops a clay bowl and it shatters, where did that bowl come from? Is there a quarry nearby? Is that traded? Are they made locally? Is there a potter's here? You might say, actually, all of their stuff is wooden. Wooden bowls, wooden spoons, all of that stuff. Or they are metal, so wood bowls and things like that for serving and eating off of, but metal cooking utensils. Maybe they do have glassware. Unlikely if it's a very small town, but maybe they do have. Okay, where's the glass coming from? Probably imported. Or is it that this town's purpose is a glassworks? Does it have a glassworks? I mean, they're very, very rare in D&D, kind of, relative to things like blacksmiths. You would think, but it's your world. Maybe that's a normal thing and everything's made of glass. Maybe the weapons are made of glass. All sorts of things like that you can do. But these are kind of questions that you need to sort of resolve. Construction materials. What are the houses in Caer Konig made of? Because they're all made of wood. Again, I'm going to call BS on that because there's no darn forests here. It's going to be much more sense for them to be made of stone. But if I describe all of the houses made of stone, is there a quarry? Where are they coming from? Might be under the snow. The players may never visit it. It might be irrelevant to ongoing. They're repurposing existing stones. This town is not growing at the moment, so maybe that's not a big deal. But the players may be interested. Just a couple of words, just jot it down. And we mentioned about waste management, trade connections. I already talked about those, of course. Is that next town that you said, oh, well, they import it. Brilliant. Okay, now you need to, not in detail, but you need to develop that next town. Knowing that, well, hang on a minute, if they're getting all of their if they're getting any of their weapons and tools from the next town and they're importing them, I know that next town needs to have a blacksmith or an armourer or both. So why have they got an armourer? Maybe it's because it's a soldier's outpost. It's a borderland keep of some description that is mostly about defence. Maybe that's how the trade route is safe, because that closest place is actually about protecting the trade routes. Trade goes into that place and then comes out of that place, and that's the hub. That's where the core markets are, rather than being in a city or stuff. 100% totally plausible. You do you. A few other things on here, of course, is market facilities. Does it have a market, or is it just shops? If it does have a market, fantastic. Make it a bit colourful. What kind of things can you buy in the market? Yeah, all the cabbages and boring stuff like that. But perhaps once a month, somebody special comes in. Or who are they? What do they sell? Maybe they sell books, rarity and novelty. Maybe travelling magician comes in, does tricks, or a bard or something like that. Maybe once a month that weekly market becomes something a bit more of a festivity, a bit more special. Bring your place to life. Key imports, key exports. What is Caerconic actually providing for the rest of the 10 towns and the Dales? Nothing. Not a darn thing. So why would they trade with it? What have they got to offer? Basically nothing. The only thing they've got to offer is fish. Knucklehead trout to be precise, and more likely the scrimshaw carving of those knucklehead skulls. So maybe we need to make a bigger thing of the only way that Caerconic is able to survive is because it's trading its scrimshaw for all of these resources it can't provide for itself. Taxation. What kind of tax is levied and on whom? Is that levied on everybody who lives here? Is it set amount? Is it per year? Is it a percentage of their crops like a tithe? Is it profits off of selling things? How is that working? I need a sip of tea. Answer that question. And then policing and defence. So are there guards wandering around town? This is Caerconic, it's tiny. It's got a population of 150 people. It is absolutely tiny. And then the book tells us that it's got 25 soldiers. Really? 25 soldiers? There's only 150 people here. That's a huge portion of the workforce that is in soldiery. So I tweaked that and went, you know what? That's a trained militia. That is not soldiers. They are trained militia who have tools, weapons available to them. They've had training, but they are day to day going about their lives. What about policing? Well, I went, in that case, there's one patrol that consists of 2 people at any one time. But that's it. It's only a small place. We don't need tons and tons of police officers. And mostly they are there to help out, make sure that there's no monsters wandering in, yetis on the outskirts of town and things. They're mostly there to raise the alarm, so that the rest of the militia, they're getting on with their jobs. They're not paying attention. We've got a couple of people who are paying attention who can call in the rest of the militia should there be an issue. Makes much more sense, right? This town is not big enough to support and pay 25 soldiers all of the time. If you're an adult male, chances are you're in the militia or you're training to be in the militia, full stop. And the last one I put on here was about recreation. What do people do when they are not working? Maybe, well, not for Caerconic because it's too bloody cold and these guys are going to be huddled in, probably in the tavern, saving their own wood or whatever, their own fuel, and being in the tavern and using the tavern's fire and lighting. Thank you very much, because that's much cheaper. Especially if the ale's cheap, you can make it last for hours, and you get warmth, and you get company and everything else by being in there and not using your own resources. But then you're stuck indoors, so it's going to be card games and dice and things like that. But maybe where you are, where your town is, it's more open air, it's much nicer, it's warmer. Maybe in the summer months there is, after work, there's a good old game of your region's equivalent of cricket or baseball or something like that, a stick and ball type game. Maybe that is what they do. People play and the others come and watch, and it's really nice, and just that's what they do. It's an after dinner activity in good weather. Okay, brilliant. What about in when the weather's bad, when it's raining? Perhaps they don't do anything because it's not that often. What do they do through the winter months? Again, maybe that's not a problem depending on the climate you're operating in. So the whole point of this, as I have said several times, and you know how much I like to ramble, is we are taking that description of Caerconic, which is not very good. It's fine, but it's got lots of holes in. We are taking our NPCs, that again, it gives us what we need, but we're adding flavour to our NPCs. And from the point of view of this video, we're adding all of this flavour in for the town. So we understand what this town is about, what the biggest challenges for this town is, and where those weak points are. What is the worst thing that could happen to this particular town? Now, for Caer Konig, the absolute worst thing that could happen is those knucklehead trout disappear. That's it. They are stuffed. There's other things they potentially can do about almost everything except that. Specifically, is it so difficult to trade with Caer Konig at this time because the ferry's not running, because the weather's so atrocious. Just so you're aware, you also need to consider distances. How far is it to your next town that is supplying a certain resource? How far away is the logging camp and the quarry and things like that? Just bear that in mind. Traders are not going to walk for 3 weeks to trade a few potatoes. Ain't going to do it. It's just not going to happen, is it? And that town is going to dry up and fade away. So think about those kind of things about how far is it. Most traders would be looking to travel for maximum of 1 day before they hit something like civilization. Now, what I mean by that is, especially if you're not European, you may not have the back history in quite the same way that like the UK does, but things like the coaching houses, the inn that's part way between two places you stop over at. It's in Lord of the Rings. You see, if you've seen the films, The Lord of the Rings is one of the first things they do when they leave the Shire. It goes straight to the local pub. It's not the local pub. It's a place that you stop over when you're travelling between places, because there's beds. In that case, a small palisade to keep you safe, so you can have a good night's sleep before you up and off on your travels to your destination the next day. So you've got those kind of taverns along the roadside, but again, they need to be protected and things like that. So you can put it further away. But the profits for the trader have to be enough that the trader is willing to make that trip, willing to spend the time, willing to take the risks, and if they need to pay out money to mitigate those risks, hiring adventurers for protection, their profits better be darn good, right? And if they're coming into Caer Konig to provide all of this stuff, and the only thing Caer Konig is going to provide them with is, here's some extra knucklehead trout, that is already being fished in the town the trade has come from, why would you bother? So Caer Konig needs a much better, desirable resource than it currently has for the rest of the town. Now that probably ties in with that description where they say basically they've been pretty much shunned and they feel they've been cut off and forgotten by the rest of the 10 towns. Well, yeah, you've got nothing to offer them. Nothing at all except extra mouths to feed, so why would they? Anyway, I hope this has been useful for you. It's a bit of a ramble, I know, but if you're a new DM, these are things won't even cross your mind. If you're an experienced DM, you might say, oh, you do this automatically off the top of your head. You might write these things down. You may have other things, other resources and stuff that I've not even covered in this, and I do tweak it campaign by campaign, adventure by adventure, scribbled notes on a post-it, or much more formal. But again, if you're a new DM, you want your players to go, oh wow, I can touch, feel and smell this place, not just one-dimensional. There's a tavern, you walk in, you get a drink. It's like, well, what does the tavern look like? What does it smell like? You know, who's in here? Is it jolly? Is it dark? Is it, you know, those kind of flavors? And that is all going to come from understanding the resources, the risks and worries of this particular place, even if they're starting at a roadside tavern. Okay, where are they getting their stuff from? It works across the board. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Thank you to all my patrons. Really appreciate you guys. It makes a huge difference. Apologies that this video took a slightly longer to come out. I was working on something else that failed repeatedly, so I have segued to do this one instead. I'm going to go back and see if I can fix that other thing very soon. For all of those in the UK, if you're watching this kind of over the bank holiday weekend, I hope you're managing to stay cool. Just to really wind you up, I've got my aircon blasting in the next room, so I'm going to go lay down in my air conditioning and cool off because it's warm. Take care everybody, thank you for watching. I'm the Clay Golem. I will see you in the next one.